Contact me, Jim Boyd, at BoydElectric.com. That's BoydElectric.com.
Trading involves financial risk and is not suitable for all investors. Past results do not guarantee future performance.
Want to dominate the stock market in 2021? Looking for higher profit potential? With the COVID vaccines, a shifting political landscape, and a new year, it's virtually impossible to guess what will happen next. With Vantage Point, you don't have to. Text MONEY to 411-411 to find out how our technology can forecast market trends up to 3 days in advance with incredible accuracy. Text MONEY to 411-411 to find explosive moves before they happen. Vantage Point's patented technology analyzes huge quantities of global data in seconds. Text MONEY to 411-411 to find out how. Make 2021 your year. Start predicting trends 72 hours in advance and maximize your gains. Text MONEY to 411-411 and experience Vantage Point for free. Protect and grow your capital now. Don't wait. Text MONEY to 411-411.
Respondents will receive a one-time auto-generated text message from Vantage Point.
7:37 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and Jim.
On the inbound Kennedy, traffic is stop and go from Cumberland to Harlem and North Avenue to the Bird Circle. It's 30 minutes O'Hare to downtown, 14 from Montrose, 8 in the Express. About 20 minutes downtown to the airport. Inbound Eisenhower delay started St. Charles, 35 minutes, 390 to downtown, 23 from Wolf. Outbound 25 minutes to 390. Stevenson, 28 minutes from the Veterans Memorial Tollway to Lakeshore Drive. Outbound 22. The Ryan, 15 minutes, 95th to downtown. I-57, 11 minutes, I-80 to the Merge, Bishop 410. In Melrose Park and North Lake, Wolf Road is closed southbound. Franklin Avenue to Fullerton. This is for crash investigation after an earlier incident. That's traffic. I'm Jim Telemonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Sunny and breezy in your forecast, I-45. 35 right now. Next news at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. When you've got questions, he always has an answer. It's Sean Hannity, this afternoon at 2 on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Were the lockdowns worth it? And I say that as if it's past tense. It's obviously not past tense in lockdown or governed states like Illinois, New York, California, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Michigan. Let's see. The case fatality rate in Sweden is lower than that in Illinois.
About the same population, give or take.
The case fatality, and obviously much lower than Massachusetts, New York, California. Mm-hmm. And I know Sweden changed some of its policies after so much criticism, after an increase in cases and so much criticism for their light touch, last late summer, early fall.
But they're back to normal now.
Well, but also, wait, they changed their policies, but still they should have suffered the ill effects of their human experimentation earlier in the pandemic when all these enlightened lockdowner states were locked down.
They still never wear masks either.
But they
never forced a mask mandate.
I just continue to go back to former Swedish state epidemiologist Johan Giesecke's comment that you heard on this show in March of 2020, talking about lockdowns as the zeitgeist for lockdowns was reaching fever pitch. He's like, we'll see. We'll see what it looks like in a year. My bet is there won't be much difference from those who locked down versus those who didn't. And he also raised the specter of what I don't understand is once you do it, how do you find your way out? Well, Johan Giesecke is not exactly a household name, certainly not the way Tony Fauci is, but maybe he should be because he's been right on both scores. For more on that underlying question, were the lockdowns worth it? Pleased to be joined again by Philippe Lemoine, doctoral candidate in philosophy at Cornell University, also a fellow at the Center for the Study of Partisanship and Ideology, and he has tackled this question. Philippe, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, were they worth it?
I don't think so. I don't know if you remember, but I think you remember I was on your show about a year ago. You invited me back then.
Yeah.
And at the time I was arguing in favor of a lockdown. And I don't know if you remember, but at the time I was arguing in favor of a lockdown, but I was saying that we have to be willing and ready to change our view based on new data coming in. And that's what I did. I think that after a year, of course, this pandemic has been terrible. A lot of people have died. But after a year of data, when I look at them, I try to compare places that locked down or used very stringent restrictions with places that had much more liberal policies. And I don't think that, there is no clear difference. So I'm not saying that restrictions make no difference. I don't think that's true. I think they likely do make some difference. But I don't think that the difference is so large that it makes it worth the cost, because the cost is huge. So everybody has in mind, when you talk about the cost of restrictions and lockdown policies, everybody has in mind the economic cost, which is real and very serious. It's something worth taking into account. But even if you ignore the economic cost, there is an immediate effect on people's well-being that almost everybody is completely ignoring. So I'm in France right now, and we've had a curfew at 6 p.m. for the past 2 months. So it has destroyed large swaths of social life in France. And of course, this has had a huge effect on people's well-being. But because lockdown policies have become a default solution, we talk as if this was normal. This were normal, but it's not. We have basically abolished most social life for 67 million people in France for 2 months. It's gonna continue for at least another month. This is not something that people in government should do so casually, but right now it's been the case. That's what we've been doing, and I think that the immediate effect of those policies on people's well-being alone, I'm not even talking about the economic consequences.
Right, the mental health
is
aspect
large
of it.
enough. What's that?
I said the mental health aspect of it is, it's worse than COVID, I think. But in France right now, why are you guys locked down? Is this about hospitalizations or ICU capacity or the number of cases?
Yes, it's mostly hospitalization and ICU capacity. So we are stretching right now our ICU capacity. So the government has decided to lock down just yesterday. It was announced that decided to lock down, although it's a very soft lockdown. It doesn't really change anything compared to the previous situation. But there's a kind of a magical aspect to this. People words have acquired some kind of magical meaning. So they call that a lockdown. They're hoping that the mere fact of calling that a lockdown will change something.
Sure.
But the main reason is indeed that we are reaching the limits of our ICU capacities. But they're doing those restrictions. But again, when you look at the data, it's not clear that it's going to make a large difference. In fact, it's pretty clear that it won't make a large difference. Again, I'm not saying it will make no difference whatsoever, but it won't be very large. And meanwhile, the effect on people, the well-being of the population is huge. It's absolutely gigantic.
Can't take
that into account.
Yeah, can't figure how to get out. Just exactly what Gasecki said. Can't figure out. All I have I have this one. I have this one tool, a hammer, and so everything I see with respect to COVID is a nail. And the words we use. Yeah, COVID could be listening. The personification of the virus too is really something to behold. And here, this again, where France and the Western Europe were the enlightened countries last year, where Sweden and even some other Scandinavian countries that took a lighter touch, particularly with respect to schooling, they were showing reckless disregard for human life. And here we are in March of 2021, and who is in which category now?
Yes, I agree. One thing good we did in France is that unlike virtually all of Europe and indeed even many places in the U.S., we've only closed in-person schools. Well, we've only stopped in-person schooling during the first lockdown, and since then the government has refused to do it again, which I think is very good. So that there's at least one mistake we didn't make. But yeah, we have. But I think what you said just before is exactly right. There is this constant injunction in the media on social media, etc., to do something. So the government has to do something, so they do something. It doesn't matter what. They have to do, even if it's completely silly, they're going to do something because they're asked to do something. So right now, yesterday, the government has announced that they would close all non-essential businesses.
Of course.
No,
Sure.
we actually have data on where people get contaminated now. And it's very clear that closing non-essential businesses will do absolutely nothing on transmission. But the government does it because it has to do something. Everybody's asking them to do something. We can't, it's like, we're not having an adult conversation about this. We have to accept that there are some things that we can control and government can control. And it's really dumb to do something that's going to cost a lot of money, also have a heavy emotional cost for all business owners who won't be able to work. When we know, everybody knows that this won't change anything, but they do it because, again, they're constantly under pressure to do something. So they do something. Doesn't matter what.
I don't misunderstand activity for accomplishment. What's the vaccine situation like in France right now?
So that's the most terrible part, is that we're having those restrictions that, by the government's own admission, it's not clear they're doing anything, but again, they have a huge effect on people's well-being, and they keep them in place or even tighten them because, again, they're under the constant injunction to do something. But meanwhile, we're doing terribly with the vaccine rollout. It's really a shame. I mean, like the European Commission was not able to secure enough doses, so we don't have enough doses. That's the first problem. Then the second problem is that we don't even use as well as we could, the doses that we do have. And of course, you've probably heard about the latest controversy when the AstraZeneca vaccine, which, according to the data we have, is perfectly effective and not dangerous, was the vaccination of that vaccine was suspended for a few days because there were a few people with blood clots, and so they were worried that it might be dangerous. But there was no good evidence that those complications were actually caused by the virus. But let's even assume that they were. We're talking about a handful of people having adverse effects, but meanwhile, there are like thousands and thousands of people dying every day in Europe. So, the cost benefits, this has been a big problem. It's one of the things that...
Cost benefit?
Yeah, the cost benefit situation is very clear.
Right, but as you point out, I mean, cost benefit is out the window. You know what's in? Cost benefit is out. What is au courant? Out of an abundance of caution. Out of an abundance of caution. Out of an abundance of caution. That's the mantra. And safetyism is the philosophy, since you're a doctoral candidate in philosophy. And so there is no order of magnitude conversation, is there?
No, that's a big problem. So that's one of the points I insist on in the report I wrote for CSPI, and that I mentioned in the Wall Street Journal op-ed, is that we have completely forgone any type of cost-benefit calculation. So governments around the world, in the West at least, have been engaged in what are effectively the most massive attacks on individual freedoms since World War II. This is just, I'm not even making a normative claim, this is just a descriptive claim. That's a fact. And yet, it has been more than 1 year now, and there hasn't been a single Western government that has published a cost-benefit analysis to justify those measures. Now, this is crazy. I mean, but we're not talking about this, and we should really, because it's not normal that we accept that our most basic freedoms, because are being curtailed to a very significant degree for months, at this point, basically a year, and no government, not a single one, has published a cost-benefit analysis to show that those measures were warranted. Of course, if they did, they would see that they're not. There's absolutely no way in hell that you could justify those measures with a serious cost-benefit analysis.
All you have to do, you don't need cost benefit. You don't. But here's the right. You don't need cost benefit analyses for the public. All you need to do is just say, I'm a man or a woman of science and data, and I'm about saving lives and keeping people safe. And you just rinse and repeat that, 15 times an hour, and that's all you got to do. The consequences be damned. That's where we're at, and that's what you're describing. And it's as you say, it's not limited to France. It's not limited to the United States. It's the entire Western world. It's it's the path to the end of Western civilization, is what it is.
Yes, there's a real myopia about what consequences we take into account and what consequences we don't. So we are obsessed with health outcomes. We're obsessed with hospitalization, ICU utilization, death. And of course, I agree, those are very bad. It's bad when ICUs, hospitals are overwhelmed. I'm not denying that. But it's also bad when children are denied a normal life, socialization with their friends at school for like several months, sometimes close to a year in some places. It's also bad when not just children, but regular people in general, are denied a normal social life for months at a time. We can't just take into account hospitalization and death. Again, I'm not denying that those things are important, but they're not the alpha and omega of how to handle a pandemic. Or actually, they shouldn't be, but they are, because indeed, people go on TV, on the radio, and they talk about death, hospitalization. They tell us that ICU are reaching their limits. And yes, again, this is bad. I'm not denying this is bad, but when are we going to talk about the consequences for people who have had no social life for close to a year? Children who are not able to socialize with their friends. I mean, this is monstrous. We can't be doing this.
We'll get around to that when it's too late. That's when we'll get around to it. Philippe Lemoine, he is doctoral candidate in philosophy at Cornell, fellow at the Center for the Study of Partisanship and Ideology. Philippe, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
If you're talking about it, Dan and Amy are talking about it. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The following is a true story.
I had a lady that was in her mid-70s, and I'd sold her timeshare, and that was the lowest I'd ever felt in my life. I knew then that I had to do something to simply not to go to hell for selling timeshare.
Chuck McDowell founded Wesley Financial Group to help folks cancel their timeshares permanently.
Called her and everybody that I'd sold timeshare to, and I said, this is what I said to you that was a lie, and this is what you need to do to cancel your timeshare. From that point, people started referring friends to me to help them cancel the timeshare, and that's how it all started. I fought the world's largest timeshare company in federal court. If I had lost that lawsuit, there would be no one helping people that have been lied to when they bought timeshare. If we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare or we'll give your money back. That's what makes us different.
Call Wesley Financial Group now for a free information kit. 800-707-8989. That's 800-707-8989. 800-707-8989.
Recently, it rained, the other day. And how is your basement doing? Any leaks in your walls? And you put up with it thinking, it's just going to go away? No, it's only going to get worse if you ignore it. So many of you want a dry basement, right? And if you do, you should all want a dry basement. The only company to call is Permaseal. So Permaseal, here's story after story of homeowners who say their basement leaks only when it rains.